Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty. Welcome to the Gospel Truth. And sometimes in our search for the gospel truth, we do tread onto extra-biblical and para-biblical areas of enlightenment. Today, we're going to look at, in our continuing series on seeking parabiblical wisdom, we're looking into the writings of Madame Blavatsky of Theosophy fame. Nick, first one in the house. And I do encourage you to stick around. If this is something that upsets your spiritual tummy, we want to let you know beforehand, this is parabiblical information. And we are going to be looking at the writings of Madame Blavatsky. If you're a first-time visitor, we welcome you to the show. We ask you to like, share, and subscribe. If you are a regular visitor, we ask you to just keep doing what you're doing, only do more of it. We're going, we're growing, we're exploding. We've got some very magical things happening. I'm trying to get with some astronomers so we can make a, hello, Ashley, from the stars, so we can make a great documentary regarding the September 23, Revelation 12 sign. A lot of things in the works, a lot of things going on. But today, let's talk about parabiblical knowledge, parabiblical wisdom. And before you run off, remember that John the Apostle, who knew the Christ better than anyone else, said that not all the books in the world could contain the doings and the sayings of the Christ while he was here on earth. So to think that all of his wisdom is combined within 27 letters of the New Testament, 66 overall, if you combine both the Hebrew and the Greek scriptures, to think that that contained all that the Christ had to say, I find that to be a sad and limited perspective. So that's why we take a look at parabiblical literature, helping to find time. I saw something in the chat room that took my eye off the ball here. Sorry about that. But we do want to allow ourselves to be exposed to more information. And we can eat the meat, we can throw out the bones, but if we don't take a look, then we won't ever know. So let's go ahead and take a look at the writings of Madame Blavatsky. And I think this is going to prove to be very interesting. It has in the past, so I think it'll be just as much this time. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat room. I think I hit the mute button in time, and we will take a look at those as we go. I'm trying to get it as big as I can. I think that's as big as I can get it. Let me see. I don't know if you can see it or not, and I'm going to comment on it, so you don't necessarily have to see it, but it looks like on my screen, that's about as big as I can get it, unless I do this. And do that. I wonder if that'll help us at all. Let's see how that looks. Let me just pause here a minute because there's a little bit of a delay. I want to see if that looks better for you. Maybe. Anyway, I think you can read it. So we're following up at where we picked up last time. And and this of course threw me off on my on where I am because I changed the size of it. And this is Isis Unveiled that we're looking at. Here we go. The progress of mankind marked by cycles. And this is very, very interesting. And she was ahead of her time because she talks about it being unphilosophical to look into scientific information and the consideration of physical effects. Some people thought that it was unspiritual to look at scientific investigation and look at the bounds of physical reality and physical nature. And I think Blavatsky was saying, listen, if we don't take time to look at all of the information, we end up like the little squirrel upon the revolving wheel or the hamster in the cage running over and over and over and over again. Now, there's nothing wrong with looking at science, but we cannot allow science to be the master and us to be the pygmies, so to speak. The modern day philosopher takes into account both the spiritual and the scientific. For a man of science to refuse opportunity to investigate new phenomenon is silly, and for a spiritual man to refuse the inquiry into scientific phenomenon is equally silly. And of course, when I say man, I mean man and woman, obviously. Now, whether it's arrived at by the methodology of Aristotle or of Plato or of some of the great scientists, we should not stop to inquire. We should look at both the inner and outer natures of man. We should understand both the scientific discussions of reality as well as the philosophical and spiritual discussions of mankind. And here's an interesting fact, fascinating, that Blavatsky talks about. She's talking about dividing the periods of human existence on this planet into cycles, during each of which mankind gradually reached the culminating point of highest civilization and gradually relapsed into abject barbarism. Now, many people believed, we were at a height with Atlantis, with Lemuria, maybe even with the Egyptian civilization, that we have somehow slipped back into what Blavatsky calls abject barbarism. And be that as it may, and be it true as it may, let me slip out of that thought process for a moment and look at it in strictly spiritual terms. Are there cycles, spiritual cycles, that we as people go through? Are there spiritual cycles that we go through? And I think that many of us, including Blavatsky, were of the opinion that mankind, man, woman, had to go through spiritual cycles of reincarnation in order to gradually reach their culminating point. Now, I believe that that probably has been true in the past, but part of what my job is in bringing to you the gospel truth and being the Christian whistleblower, both of those things work together. And part of it is realizing that the Christ manifested for us, and he really did manifest for us, and it was a he manifests for us to show us how we can complete our gradual ascension towards our true spiritual selves, not through many, many lives of reincarnation, but I believe he gave us the ways and the truths that lead to life within a single human lifespan. I know that is audacious. I know that is unheard of, but I believe on this channel I have proven it to you over and over, and we'll dip back into that again. If you read John 3:16, that whole chapter there, that whole passage, and of course the Christian sees on it to teach you that you're full of original sin and you've got to have salvation, got to have a savior. They got the only savior, but that's not what that passage was about at all. That passage was about one who knew the way and had come to show us the way. And now, with the eclipse of the 21st and the rise of Sophia, who was the first Christ, and that's why you have to keep watching these videos, because we build on one another. Sophia, who was the first Christ, manifested in Eve to give us what we needed to overcome her mistake. Even the gods make mistakes. The Elohim make mistakes. To manifest, to teach us how to overcome her mistake, which was the Lord, the one you call the Lord, the one you call Yahweh, the one you call Jehovah. She created him without the approval and participation of her male consort, her male co-god, if you will. That's why I call him the rat bastard, because he was a bastard and because he has gone against the will of the mother, father God, the Elohim. And she manifested in Eve. She incarnated in Eve, just like the Christ incarnated in that male body, some probably 4,000-ish years later. And now Sophia has arisen from that. She is back to her fullness. Her time of correction, if you're of Gnostic thought, is over. And she has manifested herself into full glory once again. I was at ground zero of that eclipse. I got in my car and drove 12 hours to get there. And as I looked up, I did see the fullness of male spirituality and the fullness of female spirituality beaming down upon me. And it was a time of change. It was a momentous occasion. As I looked around, I saw that the veil between worlds was thin, even permeable, even that you could see across it. And I received many messages and was giving messages to people. And I know you might think I'm crazy, but that's okay. If you thought by the standards of this world I was normal, I'd be worried. And as I thought about that eclipse from the other side, it is the male, and I'm a male, getting the maleness reflected back to us and understanding the mistakes and the excesses of the male, and understanding that we need to turn this thing around literally and physically and get back to a balance. We don't need hyperfemininity any more than we needed hypermasculinity. What we need is a balance. And this eclipse, which happened in 2017, which is a 10, a 1, and a 0, representative of male and female completion, opens up a 7-year period. And many of the Revelation 12 sign, September 23 Revelation 12 sign crowd wants you to believe that it's the beginning of a 7-year period of tribulation. And I'm busily working to put together a public debate with L.A. Marzulli, accomplished teacher, and myself on this Revelation 12, September 23 sign. And I have been in contact with Mr. Marzulli, and he has graciously engaged me in conversation. So we're hopeful that we can put this together. And I'd love to put it together on Coast to Coast AM, but we'll see what happens there. And this is not a 7-year period. With all respect to Mr. Marzulli, it is not a 7-year period of tribulation. It's a 7-year period of jubilation. For the next eclipse is 2024, which is an 8, which is a new beginning. And really what it comes down to is you've got 7 years to decide who you're going to be and what you're going to be. And I believe with all that is within me, and I will continue to study and prove it, that this 7 years, you get a chance to balance yourself. You get a chance to come into fullness of your spirituality. You get a chance to follow the ways, follow the truths that came from the Christ that lead to life and life more abundant, and get you back to the place you're supposed to be within a single human lifetime. That is an opportunity for you, and that is jubilation, and it's an opportunity for you in the next 7 years. And once 2024 hits, I think that you are who you are, and you're going to be who you're going to be. I think that it may be a closing of an age for at least those of us that are here within this realm at this time. So make hay while the sun shines, work while it's yet day, for the night comes when no man can work. The Christ said that, and I think that 2024 may be that night. So now's the time to get yourself ready. And with a gross and crass commercialistic approach, now's the time to get your meetings with me, so we can get your analytical mind dialed in. We can get the gaps out of your analytical mind. We can get your reptilian mind repressed, and we can get you the comforter activation and direct access to the divine database. And I do it all on a donation basis. Times are really filling up, so if you don't want to wait a month or two, contact me through email. Tell me 3 times and dates that you can make it. Tell me your Skype address or your Google Hangout address, and have that all set up so it doesn't take away from our time when we get together. But all that to talk about gradual cycles within human spirituality. And boy, this just hit me like a ton of bricks. This is the great thing about live teaching that we can do, is that Blavatsky was talking about us reaching a high point of civilization and then gradually relapsing back into abject barbarism And I think that's what's going to happen during this 7-year period. Sophia has risen. We have the completed Christ, the female Christ, and the male Christ have been completed. We can take advantage of that full spirituality now. And we now have 7 years, a complete cycle, not of tribulation, but of jubilation. And it's our opportunity to reach the highest point of our spirituality. And come 2024, you are what you are, and maybe you will gradually relapse into abject barbarism, or you will gradually reach the culminating point of your highest expression of spirituality. And I really think it comes down to religion versus spirituality. If you are still, come 2024, a person that is aligned with the Christ, with the Jesus message and religion, then you will be aligned with the Jesus message and religion. If you're a person that aligns with the message of the Christ, then you will be a person that is aligned with the message of the Christ. I did just do a book about Jesus and the Christ, if you want to understand the differences. And if you don't want to pay for it, well, then you can do a search through my YouTube channel. We also did videos on it. So Blavatsky goes on and says that she believes that our race has several times arrived at a place of high civilization, and that we do have aspects of that available to us. And yet it seems like most of them have gone away by years. The gigantic structures, the pyramids, the temples are just ruins, scattered by that unrelenting hand of time. I really appreciate the way she wrote. She had a great way to write. I appreciate it. And these are witnesses of a long bygone era of departed ancestors. And while we shrink from speaking of divine things, they do give to posterity imperfect descriptions from hearsay of marvelous messages and stories. And I can't help but think that as we go through our analytical mind, and this just hit me. I knew it intuitively, but I didn't know a way to express it in words. As we go through our analytical mind, and as we go back and work on our minds, and we get back to the origins of the things that cause gap in our minds, we are unlocking once again the immanence of the glory and the past high state of spirituality that we did. As you unlock your analytical mind, you walk again in the shadow of the pyramids and their majestic limestone covered shining glory. Ooh, that gives me chills. As you get your analytical mind corrected, you walk again in the porticos of the famous temples as they stood in their full majesty. As you get your analytical mind dialed back up, you walk in the bygone glory of the departed ancestors and the departed spirituality from which we have shrunk and recessed and regressed. Wow, that's powerful. I can't wait till my next appointment to help people reach these lofty places. And it's funny, the next sentence says lofty. See, that's when you know things are coming together. That's when you know that things are dialed in. That's when you know things are really good. And you know how I love it when a plan comes together. I really do. I love it when a plan comes together. Talking about lofty, there's lofty in the very next sentence. I love it when a plan comes together. So, yes, we've probably fallen from a spiritual place of where we were. And yes, perhaps it is cyclical. And yes, we've entered into a cycle, which gives us an opportunity to once again reach these lofty places. And that's why searching through, people say, oh, Jeff doesn't like the Bible anymore. Well, that's not true. Jeffrey Darty believes that the Bible's probably 80% dung, 20% diamond. But Jeffrey Darty, as I speak of me in the third person, which is a little bit odd, Jeffrey Darty is a closer follower of the ways of the Christ today than he was when he believed 100% of the Bible was diamond. So I do say that the Bible remains a profitable study for those that are seeking the fullness of spirituality, but I also say that parabiblical wisdom, such as this from Madame Blavatsky, such as that from Manly P. Hall that we've looked about in The Secret Teachings of All Ages, allows us to find buried treasure, allows us to broaden our scope and our perspective, and allows us to discover many of those things that John said the Christ did and said that cannot be contained within the parameters of 66 books. And remember, 66 books that have been edited and vetted by the Roman government in first century Judea, 66 books that have been vetted and edited by the world empire of King James. Manly P. Hall was not edited or vetted by the Romans or King James and his merry men. Helena Blavatsky was not edited and vetted by the Romans or King James and his merry men either. So there's an opportunity to pick up diamonds from places other than just the biblical scripture. And I feel sorry for you if you won't reach outside of the biblical scripture. And I'd love to have a Parabiblical Wisdom conference. That would be great. So we should look outside of biblical wisdom. We should look outside of just what we would call spiritual wisdom and look to scientific wisdom. And every true savant admits that in many respects, human knowledge is in its infancy. Blavatsky said that, not Darty. I'd like to take credit, but that wouldn't be honorable. And I think on Wednesday night, I'm going to have Heidi Vandenberg and Jenny Moonstone talking about Elvis Presley. Heidi has his Vedic chart ready to go. Jenny will do her tarot card savant artistry. And I'll just sit back and listen with you guys, and we'll learn probably more about Elvis Presley than we've known. And I'll tell you this, I've been around enough of Elvis's friends long enough to know that Elvis Presley would have loved both Heidi and Jenny. So it should be a very interesting show. I'm also going to have the irrepressible Rocky Stucci on this week. So some great stuff. Of course, Wayne Steiger and I started our new show on Sunday, not your normal Sunday morning show. And we'll be doing that on an ongoing basis. Plus, lots of great surprises coming. So every true savant, every person that really wants to learn and know and progress, knows and understands that human knowledge is yet in its infancy, even if you talk about the great past and the great heights that we have reached. And Blavatsky says, could it be that our cycle began in ages comparatively recent? These cycles, according to Chaldean philosophy, do not embrace all mankind at one and the same time. Now that's interesting. It causes me to wonder. The eclipse that crossed the United States from northwest to southeast, 2024 will cross the United States from northeast to southwest. And is this a special time of enlightenment maybe for us here in America? And is it maybe a special time of enlightenment because we've screwed things up so badly? Is it a time for us to realize as a nation that we do have some karmic debts to pay? I mean, we love to talk about Nazis and we love to talk about, the sins of the rest of the world when we have a horrific legacy of what we did to the American Indians. We have some karmic debts to pay. And what about what we, the debt that we owe karmically to the folks that were held in the bonds of slavery? And how about the karmic debt that is owed to all of us as Americans by this bunch of rat bastards that have enslaved us, taken away true Jeffersonian democracy, and enslaved us in a fear and guilt control matrix run by the Fed, run by the Republicans, run by the Democrats. They owe us all. Because really, and we talk about the Civil War freeing the slaves, actually, the Civil War just turned us all slaves, not just the black folks. So we're in this together, red, yellow, black, white. We all ought to be mad enough to fight because we have been held captive by our religious masters and our political masters who really are one and the same. When you think about it, don't know how we got there, but it is nonetheless true. So perhaps this is not only a time for, Rocky says 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Maybe it's not only a time just for people in general, but it's a special time even for those of us within the United States. And I believe that goes through Mexico as well. So I don't know. And that the X is somewhere in Illinois. I think about Lincoln in Illinois. In Lincoln, I know some of you love Lincoln, but you ought to study into what Lincoln did. And Lincoln really was the one probably that brought us into the fullness of slavery as the entire country. And it's passing over the land of Lincoln. I'm just saying, I'm just saying. And, you know, I'm not like these guys that say, I'm not saying the rapture is going to happen on September 23rd, but all the signs look like it's happening on September 23rd. No, I have the testosterone, the testicular fortitude to say, I think this eclipse opened up a 7-year period of jubilation where we can be all we can be, and it's coming back on 2024 to shut that door. So get to work. You're in the spiritual growth business, and cousin, business is a booming. That's what I say. You won't find me lily-gagging around. You won't find me pussyfooting around. You won't find me tiptoeing through tulips. No, the gospel truth comes bam, right to you. The Christian whistleblower comes bam, right to you. We don't play around here. We tell it like it is. Well, what if you're wrong? I'm so rarely wrong that I don't worry about it. Oh, man, look at this. I did not know this. I promise you I did not look at this. Ho, ho, ho. Sometimes I'm even better than I think I was. And I think I'm pretty good, but sometimes I'm even better than I think I am. I love it when a plan comes together. Look what's down here, just a few lines down. What was I just talking about? We found it convenient to divide the progress of man and civilization and not abrupt epochs which hold simultaneously for the whole human race. Giving as an instance, the Indians of America, who are only at present emerging from the Stone Age. There's more than one scientific. Isn't that something? We were just talking about the American Indians. I love it when a plan comes together. There's some good stuff going on. And I know I never killed an Indian. I never owned a slave. But I don't think it hurts for me to recognize the wrongs done and offer up my own personal condolences. And I mean, right now, I would say that I never owned slaves. I never killed an Indian. But I do recognize as an American my karmic debt by proxy. And I would just say with my mouth now verbally that I renounce the evil that was done to the American Indians from sea to shining sea, from border to border. And I renounce the evil that was done unto those that were held against their will as slaves. And I renounce my karmic contribution to that, or my karmic debt. And I absolve myself of that and will no longer take the blame or hurt or karmic debt of it, because I do absolve myself. And I do offer my forgiveness to those of American Indian persuasion and those of the blacks that were held against their will. And I also realize and recognize that Indians, black folks, we're all in this together now. We're all being oppressed by a government run amok. We're all being held slaves by a government run amok. We got to work half a year to pay for this largesse. That's wrong. And perhaps this 7 years will give us a chance to rework this oppression. And, say what you will about Donald Trump, and I don't need to make this about politics, but at least he says the words drain the swamp. He's finding out it's a lot harder to do it. And I was personally hoping that Trump would win on the Republican side and Bernie Sanders would win on the Democratic side, and they'd both blow up their parties and we could start again, because that's what has to happen. I'm not advocating for blowing up the White House or anything of that silliness. I'm talking about blowing up the whole idea and the whole, I'm talking about a return to Jeffersonian democracy rather than this slave camp that we've got going here now. So, wow, what a wide-ranging talk we've had today. I almost feel like it'd be a good place to end it right there. Let's see what's going on in the chat room and see if maybe we do end it right here, and we'll just talk about what I've talked about. A lot of people in there. I spend too much time doing battle online with other channels. I think one blocked me. I don't think they can block you from going to the channel. They can just block you from commenting. Yeah, you got to pick your battles. Some people ask me, well, why do you let them get away with that? Well, I pick the battles that I'm willing to really fight for. And people say, why are you so... I've had people say to me, listen, you need to get off the September 23 Revelation 12 thing. Well, there's not much time left between now and September 23. And I've talked to people that are moving to the mountains and selling stuff, and they're really worried about this thing, and it's become a source of fear and dread. So I feel that I must do it somewhat, but I can get too focused. So there you go. There's some theory that a moment sneezes, demons can enter. Yeah, that's old Middle Age stuff. I don't agree with it, but I do appreciate the Gesundheit. Does Yahweh equal the devil? Yes. And why would you say that, Jeff? Well, because Yahweh was identified by the Christ as his adversary. And the devil is really just the Satan or the adversary. So, yes, Yahweh, Marduk, Jehovah, Sackless, Samael, Rat Bastard is the great adversary of the Christ, the devil. We call him Rat Bastard around these parts, yes. Irenaeus is dead. Churches should talk about the rest of the Gospels, not just 4. I can't agree with you more, knowledge seekers, so that's what we're doing. I'm interested in more evidence suggesting this before joining the RB Club. Well, you're in the right place, Rain Man. You're the Rain Man. Do some investigation. There's actually on this channel, there's a subdivision down there. It says, is the Lord who we think he is? That's a good place to start. Jesus fallacies from Bethlehem to Revelation. That's another good place to start. Almost 750 videos on this now. There's a Bible college education on this channel, and it's free of charge. It's better than a Bible college education, and it's free of charge. Lord is a title, though. No, what I'm talking about, Lord, Rain Man, is whenever you see in the scriptures, capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D, that's the Tetragrammaton. That is exclusively referenced to the covenant God of Israel, Yahweh, the Lord. That's the guy that we're talking about. We're not talking about, and in the New Testament, he's generally Kairos. Theos is in the New Testament. Theos is generally referring to the Elohim, Kairos to the Lord. He did one yesterday, I think, with Wayne, that nobody knows the name anymore. That's probably true. The top levels of Freemasons believe that Jesus is Satan. Well, they're right. Jesus is a placeholder for the Lord. The Lord is the adversary, the Satan. Ergo, Jesus is Satan. Jesus was not a real person. The Rain Man, read up on Mauro Bellino. He's pretty good too. Sophia goofed. Yep, even goddesses make mistakes. That's why we know that there's Sophia, the Christ. They're not the top of the heap. There's an inexpressible deity above them. Let's try to keep the pimping of other channels to a minimum. Thank you. Bang on. I appreciate it. Yahweh isn't what we've heard. No, not at all. Our interaction with creation, very, very important. If time exists and we are all one, are we the Elohim reminiscing? That's an interesting point, Nona Magic. I don't think it's accurate. I wouldn't say that we're the Elohim. But you know what? We are Elohim in training. Yeah, there is all time, I think, is it's like frequencies on a radio. I'm driving to Nashville, and one fuzzes out, another one comes in, and I have to press the button to find a radio station, right? I think it's probably that way with all dimensionality here and now, and it's that way with all time as well. So there probably is, Nona Magic, a frequency where we are fully manifest Elohim. Now there's an interesting idea. What if we could access the frequency and the time, since time is frequency, where we are already fully manifested Elohim, and we could, boom, move that or access or use that power in the here and now. Oh, that goes into the magic notebook. What do I say? Manifesting. I'm trying to write slow because I usually can't read it after I write it. Manifesting Elohim nature now from other timeline. That's definitely worthy of, I'll put your name on it, Nona Magic. That's definitely worthy of investigation. Very good. Ashley from the stars. Girl, you change your name more often than Prince. Time does not exist. Not really. No, well, we're in the bounds of it, and it really doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in the realm of the Elohim, in the etheric realm. Time does not exist. Good, recovering soul. Then we'll be all hooked up. We are the Elohim, remembering our divinity of who we actually are. No church will teach you this. I think it's interesting. I think it's worth entertaining. I'm not ready to sign off on it yet, but, and you know what? I just had the urge to eat a good hot dog, you know, like a real hot dog, not the scraps. Interesting. This is probably the smartest chat room on YouTube. You guys are, I would argue that you're the sharpest anywhere. The illusion of time is the God spell, which keeps us forgetting. I agree with you, Nona Magic. That's why the Christ came to get us out of this. And I love your meme, by the way. Are we fallen, Elohim? I don't think we're fallen. I just don't think we know. I don't think death is Da'ath. I really don't. I think Da'ath is knowledge. Where will the planets be in 2024? Misty Kruger, how are you? Nice to see you. And very thoughtful email you sent me about the blood sacrifice thing. And I wouldn't allow that to be to feel any guilt about that. That's very profound, Misty. I feel I'm a seraphim. Seraphim are reptilian, cousin. I agree, we're not fallen. We are asleep and tricked by the material world. Well, I'm living. And it's funny, when I was touring Graceland, I met a person that is best friend of the dude that's married to Cyndi Lauper. And he was talking about Cyndi Lauper and what kind of a person she is. Apparently she's a class A lady. So that was, I know material world was Madonna, but there was this whole thing about Madonna versus Cyndi Lauper, and Cyndi Lauper said there's no comparison or no rivalry. So there you go. And I can't read what he just wrote, Recovering Soul. Some Scottish drinking toast. There you go. You do know why God invented whiskey, right? So the Irish would not take over the world. I agree, Jeff. We can't stop researching. There's many evolutionary levels. I agree. Rise above disillusionment. I was just reading about the Pythagorean numbers. The Apostle John used some Pythagorean ideology in his Gospels. Elvis was an MK Ultra victim. Have you read my book, Hidden Nugget, called Assault on Aquarius? I think I'll go so far as to say that Elvis Presley was the original MK Ultra victim. It's a good book. It's definitely worth the $1.99. Sunday show with Wayne is great. Thank you. I agree. Math is language. Pedophilia life force is way stronger in children. Good point, Renaissance woman. An egg at the moment of conception grows blue. Don't know. Can't remember. Great combo, Jeff and Wayne. Thank you. But no homo. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just wanted to make that statement. A little comic relief, never hurt. What you're saying is 100% true, Jeff. On the time of the age, but only open to those who are open. Thank you. I like it when people say I'm 100% true. Yes, Civil War were all slaves. At least the slave owners had to provide food and shelter and clothing. Oh, man, and slaves even got health care, didn't they? I don't got no health care. I'm just saying. I had a book all ready to go about that, and I just figured it was too controversial. If you have ancestors who lived in what's the USA now, there's a likely chance you have native or African blood. Scumbaggery. That reminds me of Benny Eastwood. They tricked the slaves into paying for their own food, clothes, and shelter plus tax. Yeah, we're all slaves, and now we're paying for our cages. I was at Andrew Jackson's house when I was in Nashville, and they had the slave quarters there. We don't got slave quarters no more, not ones that are paid for. That's interesting. Destructive vibration versus healing vibrations that are used in the Bible. Good one, Misty. Renouncing debt to slaves and native peoples. Yep. We have to. I'm giving you chills. Good. It's been a long time since a woman said that to me. Oh, sometimes I shouldn't say some of the things I say. But watching Jenny Moonstone last night makes me feel better. What a great show that was. Jenny was on a roll. I'm reminded of Val Kilmer in Tombstone when he said, "In vino veritas." Yeah, Jenny was laying some veritas on us yesterday, and it was good stuff. You had to go to Heidi's channel and watch that. I'm sorry I lost my place in the chat. I'm trying to get back to it. There we go. Sure, a lot of us, yep. Jeff, you're giving me chills right now. There we go. Revocation of all soul contracts. Yep, I've done it and continue to do it. I thought I was wrong once. Turns out I was mistaken, yeah. People that think they're right all the time really are a source of annoyance to those of us that actually are. I den flute crystals and earth spirits. A little bit Cherokee, a little bit rock and roll, says Jabbermocky. I disagree, Jeff. Democrat and Republican are just tools for polarization. We have to transcend the divide. I think I said that. I think the 144,000, as we know, it's a big deception, so I'd have to disagree with you on that, but I'm glad you're here anyway. I'm like you. I'm open for anything. Sackless equals full, you know? We're going through a rite of passage, waking up and shaking off the enslavement and reclaiming our sovereignty. Lyatka says that, and I think you're absolutely right. Wombly Robidoux talks about the Lakota Nation. I married someone part Cherokee. I paid my debt. I don't know if that did it, but I'm glad you paid your debt. This is PhD level Bible school. You're right, Renaissance woman. This channel is, yeah, I couldn't say it any better myself. What did the rod say about 2024? I don't know. I didn't ask him. Yeah, I know we got this whole hyper Hebraic black white devils, all of us thing. That's just stupid. I'm not sure Sophia did goof. You need a little pressure to fight against. Oh, that's interesting, Seven Serpents. Jeff manifests healing the truth grid through meditation. I like that. I think we're held in that lower vibration. Yes. Ashley from the stars. We are the lotus eaters. What do you mean by that? Ashley from the stars. Formerly, the artist formerly known as We Are in a Darkness, or Reign of Darkness. The Rainbow Warriors. Yes. I want to do my part. I have a friend who after 30 years has revealed he's reptilian. That thing is hypnotic and beautiful. He's not bad. He loves nature and has a kind heart. There are some benevolent reptilians. I believe it. And that guy, I'll bet you, known to magic, is he's either an original majestic serpent that has lived for thousands of years, or he could just be an offspring of those majestic serpents from the garden. Wow, I'd like to meet a reptilian. Be careful what you ask for. I said some of them are benevolent. My father-in-law, where did I lose that one? Doggone it. My father-in-law only had 3 chambers in his heart. Man, you're asking the wrong person. I don't know nothing about hearts. I'm a Bible college graduate, not an anatomy major. Delighted you introduced me to R. Wayne. Just a little comment about the Civil War. It was not simply about slavery, economics, and control of youth. Yeah, there was a lot to do with it. It wasn't just about slavery. Slavery was despicable evil, but the Civil War wasn't really about that. And there were, by some estimations, there were as many slaves in the North as there were in the South. There were slaves in the North, so there was enough blame to go around for everybody. The idea is you don't get answers from government. Shall we share the trick of directing other fellow chatters? Yeah, whatever. I don't know anything about that whole birth certificate thing. My name is highlighted only in computer, even without the @ sign. Okay. I think the Vatican owns us. Yeah, I don't know about that. Thank you, 55 Porter. All right. There we go. We're at the bottom. Yeah, Jen, this was one hard to come in late on. Reptilian hearts are 2-chambered. I can confirm nor deny. Ashley says they go to the party, eat the food, forget they're on a mission. The lotus eaters are from the Odyssey. They ate the lotus and didn't want to return. Oh, okay. I've read that before. Hey, Travis. The land of the lotus eaters. My internet kicked me out putting that in. Jordan Maxwell explains the birth certificate contract. I gotta send a message to Jordan Maxwell. All right. I just jumped in late myself. Massive dragon in Morocco. Now that's interesting. Very, very interesting stuff. Oh, all right. Let's do a couple of questions. Where is my... There I am. Let's do a couple questions for the rods. Ha ha, here come the rods. The Rod Man. Is RH negative reptilian? No. Thy rods and thy humor comfort me. Very nice, Chris Monet. Well played. Would Elvis have liked Heidi Vandenberg? Yes. Would Elvis have liked Jenny Moonstone? I knew it. I'm not a reptile. I knew that. Does RH negative mean Roman? No. Will Jordan Maxwell come on my show? Yes. Rocker Chick, where the hell you been? I just sent you an email. Is this storm in Houston caused by echo engineering? No. Maybe possibly. Geo echo. Is this storm in Houston caused by geoengineering? No. Will the Pittsburgh Penguins three-peat this year? Yes. No. Tampa Bay Lightning. Will the Tampa Bay Lightning win the Stanley Cup this year? Oh! How about that? Let's try that again. Will the Tampa Bay Lightning win the Stanley Cup this year? Ha ha! How about that? Ooh, that gave me chills. I wonder if it's true. Should I use the rods for betting purposes? Wow. Dragon of Morocco, biology explained. Interesting. 55 quarters like, what? Okay, one more good question. I'm going to end it. No. One more good question. Will Steven Stamkos score 50 goals this year? Yes. Will Steven Stamkos win the Conn Smythe? No. Will Victor Hedman win the Conn Smythe? Yes. Oh, okay. Massive mud fossil. Somebody give me a good question. Heidi's doing she's doing her White House photos on Rex's show. All righty. I think we'll call an end to it right there. I'll probably be back tonight with some more information. Until then, oh, I've been sharing this whole time. I don't know what you've been looking at. Sorry about that. I mess up sometimes. So anyway, folks, there's some rod stuff for you. There's some good parabiblical wisdom for you. And damn, that's a blue shirt. But anyway, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty. This has been The Gospel Truth, parabiblical wisdom, great chat, and some rod stuff. And you heard it here first. The Tampa Bay Lightning will win the 2018 Stanley Cup. And Victor Hedman will be the Conn Smythe Trophy winner, which means the MVP in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So there you go. And I might place a wager. I'm not sure if that would be right or wrong. I'll have to see. Well, I'll see you again later. Those of you that are here for the first time, welcome. Like, share, subscribe. Those of you that are here, always continue to like, share, subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed. People have been being dropped off. And prayerfully consider sponsoring and prayerfully consider getting your analytical minds dialed up, because the clock is ticking in this 7-year period of jubilation. Get it while the getting's good. You're all truth seekers, and for that, I salute you. I want to remind you that you're not filled with original sin. You've got the spark of divinity within. So be excellent to yourself. Your neighbor also has the spark of divinity, so be excellent to them too. And what does that mean? That means that we're all excellent to each other. We'll see you next time.